You may think that this is a rather strange and not so glamorous location, but if I pointed the camera around, you'd see the garden still in considerable amount of flower. And I'm not hiding behind the fence away from the prying eyes of the Nottinghamshire constabulary. However, I have taken something. I've actually taken a fence. Well, a bitter one with two beautiful moths on it. Now these two moths are at the opposite ends of their sort of rarity spectrum, so to speak. That's the little common one, and that's the big rare one. Now I've brought you in a bit closer just so we can really appreciate what beautiful moths these are. Overall coloration, the background colour is various shades of a beautiful sort of dark olive green, darker over most of the forewings, and across the forewings, when you sort of diagonally as we look at it now over each forewing, is that creamy yellow broad band. You've got that more grey cream coloured trailing rear edge to the wings there, and then overlaid on those are those very fine lines, look almost like fish ribs. The thorax and the head is surrounded by a band of white hairs, and then you've got these two central bands of white hairs. It really is a beautiful moth, and I can't show you the hind wings because the hind wings have a large central patch of bright pink, but if I was to try and encourage this moth to show its hind wings, it would be off, as I found to my cost at least 3 times while trying to do this video. This moth is far more cooperative than the others have been, but it is a beautiful moth. It's well worth rearing if you get the time, and I've really enjoyed having these. It's surprising though that Striped Hawk-moth hasn't made it onto the Nottinghamshire list, because it is a regular migrant into the UK, but just not in the numbers that we've seen in 2022. There should be even bigger numbers technically in another few weeks' time, as the resulting offspring of the spring migrants reach maturity and emerge. But sometimes when you get large numbers of moths arriving of a certain species in spring, the expected larger numbers in the autumn often fail to appear. But it would be nice if one of these does finally grace a Nottinghamshire garden or a moth trap somewhere at some time this year. So that's a beautiful migrant. There's 2 more similar species that I've mentioned I've yet to show you, and that's the bedstraw hawk-moth, which I'd like to see again. I've been fortunate enough to find the larva of bedstraw hawk-moth once at Clipsnell Quarter. I think that might have been 2005. But I also saw an adult bedstraw hawk-moth nectarine at Valerian at Eakring a couple of years after that. Been very fortunate. But I would like to see bedstraw hawk-moth again, and the other one is spurge hawk-moth, which is very similar really to bedstraw hawk-moth and this species, but as I've said earlier on in this video, it's the caterpillar of spurge hawk which I'd really like to see. But the caterpillars of striped hawk were indeed spectacular themselves. Altogether, striped hawk-moth is a beautiful, rare migrant moth. So here then is the far commoner of the 2 migrants on this piece of fencing, and this is a freshly emerged silver Y. I collected it as a larva about a fortnight ago from off a yarrow plant growing at Market Warsaw Cemetery. Didn't realise at first what the caterpillar was, but reared it. And this emerged yesterday. This is a pristine silver Y. Now, silver Ys migrate to the UK in numbers each year. The date of the first ones appearing in Nottinghamshire often varies, but they can be as early as late April. More typically, it's during May, and they're often disturbed from grassy, flowery areas. But one of the things I've always done with these is showed people how moths respond to sound, and silver Ys nectaring at dusk in August or September is the prime example that I always use. And if you've got to number the silver Ys nectaring and you've got some keys or some loose change in your pocket, just jangle those keys or rattle that loose change and see what happens, and you'll see that all the moths suddenly take off and fly away. They do return, but it's the high-pitched noise of the jangling that makes them react in that way. I wouldn't have believed it if I'd not discovered it by accident myself many years ago. And it's quite amazing. You wouldn't think that moths would react to sound, but it's obviously in a similar fashion to how they avoid detection and capture by bats. If you moth trap anywhere and you've got bats around, and occasionally you'll see moths just literally drop out of the sky onto the sheet, and that's where they're being approached by a bat. The moth detects it, closes its wings and drops like a stone out of the sky. It's quite a superb defence mechanism. But the silver Y is no ugly brown job. It's beautifully marked in various shades of brown. It is quite a variable moth, and the shape of the Y that you can see there also varies. Some individuals can be quite grey, but usually homegrown moths such as this one are more sort of brownish than grey. And there is a very small form of silver Y that often occurs, and that's considerably smaller than the individual you see now. It's probably no more than 2/3 the size of this one. And if I put my grubby famous forefinger at the side, you've got sort of some size example to go by. But it's a lovely moth, and it's underrated. Nobody tends to look at it, purely again because it's common. But being common shouldn't mean you should be overlooked. And silver Y is a very attractive species.